There is one mistake I see prepared people make over and over. They buy gear to feel safe, then they show it off to feel proud. New generator, new solar panels, a garage stacked with food that they brag about at barbecues, pictures of ammo and buckets posted online. It feels good in the moment, but in a real collapse, that same pride turns into a target painted on your house. Because in a hungry, desperate neighborhood, nobody remembers how much you helped them in normal times. They only remember one thing: you are the person with stuff. And stuff is exactly what they do not have. Here is the ugly truth almost no prepper channel will say out loud. It does not matter how big your stockpile is if everyone around you knows exactly where it is and what you have. The first rule of a serious survival stockpile is simple. Protect it from the people who are closest to it. Not because your neighbors are evil now, but because desperation rewires the brain, and because once a secret leaves your mouth, it will not stay in one set of ears. Today, I am going to walk you through 11 categories of items I stock in quantity and keep completely off my neighbor's radar. I do not talk about them. I do not post about them. I do not store them where anyone can casually see them if they step into my garage. None of these are sexy. Most of them are not tactical, but together they are the difference between being forced to join the same food lines as everyone else, or being the person nobody even realizes is not suffering like they are. Item 1. The food that does not look like food. If you stack your pantry with brand name cans and colorful packages right by the door, you are telling every visitor two things. You think about emergencies. And you have a lot more calories than they do. I like shelf-stable food too, but I hide most of my real food stockpile in plain sight by making it look like anything but meals. That means bulk basics, rice in plain buckets, beans and lentils in unmarked containers. Flour, oats, pasta sealed inside food-safe barrels or bins. Cooking oil in boxes or dark jugs pushed to the back. If you walked into my storage room, you would not see a wall of brand logos. You would see what looks like boring storage tubs and plastic drums. The people who think extra food means a few more frozen pizzas will never recognize that a stack of white buckets is actually 6 months of calories. Why this matters? In a crisis, someone who sees cans and packages will immediately understand this is food. Someone who sees dull buckets might think junk and keep moving. Item 2. Water in boring shapes. If your neighbors ever notice stacks of branded water bottles and shiny blue barrels in your yard, you have a problem. Clean water is one of the first things people panic about. So most of my water is stored and staged in ways that could pass for normal clutter. Opaque containers under workbenches. Food-grade drums disguised with old tarps and tools on top. Water bricks stacked behind shelves like part of the furniture. Collapsible bladders folded and hidden until needed. I also treat every gutter, downspout, and flat surface on my property as future water collection, not just roof decoration. Nobody looks twice at a spare trash can by a shed. But a trash can with a clean liner inside and a plan for catching rain is worth more than 1,000 bottles the day the taps go dry. Item 3. Medicine and hygiene. You never talk about. I never, ever brag about having a big medical kit. The day after the pharmacy locks its doors for good, the people who remember, oh, he has tons of bandages and pills, will not be thinking about your privacy. They will be thinking about their screaming child, their infected cut, their pounding headache. Pain makes moral lines blurry. So my medical and hygiene stockpile is one of the most carefully hidden categories I own. Extra painkillers, anti-inflammatories, fever reducers. Basic antibiotics where it is legal and appropriate. Bandages, gauze, tape, antiseptic, gloves, soap, toothpaste, toothbrushes, feminine products, diapers. Most of it is stored in places only I and one trusted person know about. Not in the bathroom cabinet where every guest has seen it. Not in a clear plastic tote labeled medical sitting in the garage. If someone gets desperate enough, they will tear apart your home looking for anything that can stop pain. The less obvious your supplies are, the more likely you are to keep them for the people you are actually responsible for. Item 4. Silent power instead of a loud generator. Nothing says we have things you want louder than a generator roaring in a dead silent neighborhood. To my neighbors, I am the guy whose power went out like everyone else. They do not see the quiet direct current solar setup in my attic and back room. Modest panels that are not obvious from the street. Batteries and controllers behind plain cabinet doors. Wiring that does not light up the whole house, just key rooms. I do not have a giant battery wall showcased in the living room. I have boring boxes in boring corners. A generator is a broadcast. Quiet solar and small battery systems are secrets. I still own a generator for short-term emergencies, but in any long breakdown, it would be used sparingly if at all, and never at night. If everyone thinks the whole block is dark and powerless, I want to look like everyone else from the outside. Item 5. Fuel that blends in a stack of shiny gas cans is a sign. Fuel is life in a long emergency, whether it is for vehicles, tools, or occasional generator use. But obvious fuel storage invites one of two things: theft or pressure to share. So my fuel plan is layered and low profile. A few cans stored out of direct sight behind locked doors. Stabilized fuel rotated quietly. Propane cylinders stacked in nondescript outdoor boxes. Wood and biomass collected in ways that look like normal yard clutter or landscaping, not a firewood business. I do not keep a neat, photogenic row of red cans by the garage door. I do not talk about how many gallons I have. In a crisis, I would far rather someone assume I am stuck like they are than realize I can keep a vehicle moving when theirs is dry. Item 6. Tools and parts that look like a hobby power tools are loud. Tools that work without electricity are freedom. Hammers, handsaws, wrenches, screwdrivers, pry bars, files, sharpeners, nails, screws, bolts, tape, glue, none of that looks like a prep. It looks like a workshop, which is exactly how I want it to look. The real secret items in this category are the spares, extra blades, extra bits. Spare belts and filters, duplicate hand tools, those are tucked into bins and drawers that look like chaos to outsiders. Why this matters. When things break and stores are gone, the person who can fix a door, mend a bike, repair a broken latch, or rig a working pump is more valuable than the person with 10 more guns and no idea how to use a wrench. I want my neighbors to think he is handy, not he is hoarding equipment we could use. Item 7. Low-profile defense, not a wall of flex. Nothing draws curiosity faster than the guy who cannot stop talking about his arsenal. You do not need everyone on the block knowing exactly what you own for self-defense. My approach is simple: keep it legal, keep it quiet, keep it boring on the outside. Firearms, if you own them, are stored where no casual visitor will ever see them. Ammunition is in dull, unmarked boxes, not glass front display cases. Anything that can be used as a defensive tool but passes as normal house hardware stays in plain view. Heavy flashlights, solid walking sticks, good knives in the kitchen that look like they are for cooking because they are. The point is not to broadcast strength. It is to avoid broadcasting anything at all. If things get bad, people will remember the loud bragger down the street long before they remember the quiet person who never showed off. Item 8. Cash and trade goods. Nobody suspects. If the financial system stutters or fails, there will be a period where cash still works. Unless you told everyone at poker night how much you keep, just in case. My small reserve of physical cash is hidden in ways nobody would think to check quickly. Not under the mattress, not in the obvious safe spot everyone has seen, mixed into books that look worthless, taped behind structural elements, hidden in containers that look like they hold something else. Beyond cash, I keep trade goods that are small, essential, and easy to hand over quietly. Bic lighters, batteries, razor blades, toothbrushes, single-use painkillers, instant coffee and tea bags, nothing that screams treasure chest, everything that a desperate, hurting person will happily give you labor, information, or other supplies for. My neighbors see a normal house. They do not see that 3 plain shoeboxes in my office represent months of barter power. Item 9. Information and backup knowledge. When the internet goes dark, people lose more than memes. They lose recipes. They lose repair guides. They lose maps. They lose every bit of practical information they never bothered to learn because search engines existed. In my house, there are physical books and printed manuals on basic medicine, food preservation, gardening, mechanical and electrical repair, maps of the local region. To visitors, it looks like a random shelf of old books and binders, not a backup internet. Why hide this? Because in a long enough crisis, information becomes currency. If everyone knows you are the guy with all the manuals, you will be visited by people who want solutions without doing any work. I would rather quietly choose who I teach and help than be forced to become the free library for a block that did not prepare at all. Item 10. Seeds and quiet food production. A bag of rice is obvious. A packet of seeds looks like nothing. Vegetable and grain seeds stored properly are some of the highest leverage items you can own for a medium to long-term collapse. They turn dead dirt into calories. But if your neighbors hear you brag about your heirloom seed collection, and then watch you start digging a big, obvious garden the week after the last grocery truck comes. Do not be surprised when hungry eyes start counting your rows. I keep my seed stockpile completely off the radar. It lives in dark, cool places in dull containers. Only my family knows where and what it is. If I grow, I prefer methods that do not scream farm from the street in a crisis. Container gardening in backyards, perennial plants that look like landscaping. Vertical growing hidden from easy view. The time to quietly prepare soil and test what grows well is now, not after every lawn on the block has turned into a ragged garden overnight. Item 11. My own boundaries. The last item I hide is not physical. It is my willingness to say no. If you are known as the person who will always help, always loan, always share, people will use that until there is nothing left to give. In normal life, generosity is a virtue. In collapse, uncontrolled generosity can destroy your ability to protect your own family. I never tell neighbors, if anything bad happens, just come to me. I have enough for everyone. I will take care of you. Those are promises you cannot actually keep. What I do instead is, stay observant. Build quiet relationships with the few people who show responsibility. Decide now how far my circle extends and where the hard lines are. The fact that I have limits is a secret I keep, not because I enjoy hiding, but because survival requires uncomfortable discipline. The pattern behind all 11 look at these categories together: food that does not look like food, water that hides in plain containers, medicine and hygiene nobody knows you have, silent power, low-profile fuel, tools and parts that blend into a workshop, defense that does not invite attention, cash and trade goods tucked out of sight, books and maps that pass as clutter, seeds that look worthless. Boundaries that live only in your head and your closest circle. All of them share one rule: they do not exist for your neighbors unless you decide to show them. That is the difference between a prepper who becomes the block's unpaid supply depot and a prepared person who can choose carefully and quietly who to help and how much. What you should do next: you do not need to completely rebuild your life or become paranoid. You do need to do 3 things. First, audit visibility. Walk through your home and property with fresh eyes and ask yourself, if a neighbor stepped in right now, what would they instantly know about my supplies? Whatever jumps out at you, fix it. Move food out of sight lines. Relocate obvious stacks of water. Clear or cover anything that screams, I am ready for the end of the world. Second, relabel and disguise. Put bulk food in plain bins. Store medical and hygiene supplies in boring boxes. Make your workshop look like a hobby, not an armory. You want someone to walk through and think this person is organized, not this person could feed us for months. Third, shut the faucet. Stop talking about your stockpile to people who do not absolutely need to know. No more joking at parties about how you are set for the apocalypse. No more photos of shelves and ammo online. No more bragging about backup systems. Silence is not fear, it is operational security. Because when the trucks stop and the shelves empty, your neighbor's memory of your words will be one kind of map. Map to places that still have what they need. You can choose right now whether your house is on that map. The stockpile that changes everything is not just what you buy. It is what you hide, where you hide it, and who you hide it from.